What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the city of brotherly love. In this video, I'm going to take you on an in-person tour of Philly and show you some of the best sites to tour and check out while you're in this historic city. My wife and I used to live here for about 6 years before we moved down to Texas, so I'm excited to bring you along and take you on a tour today. Let's begin. We kick things off by starting at the Visitor Center located right in Independence National Historical Park. The best place to park your car is at the Independence Visitor Center underground parking garage. Take the elevator up and you're right outside the center. The Philadelphia Visitor Center is the official visitor center of Greater Philadelphia and the primary point of orientation for Independence Park. Tickets for 100+ local tours, attractions, and museums are available for purchase inside the Independence Visitor Center. There's also some really cool exhibits and shops we usually like to check out while we're here. Also, they have public restrooms available. Keep that in mind.
This is the new Benjamin Franklin Museum, where his house was right here, like the ghost lining.
Touring Independence Hall is actually free, but you do need to schedule your tour time, and that can be done in the Visitor Center as well. Ours is at 10 a.m., so now it's time to head over to the Independence Hall.
I may sound a little sick today, that's because I am. But I've missed this place, Independence Hall. So good to be back here in Philly. Let's go tour inside.
Some would argue this is the most historic building in our nation's history. I'd have to agree. Both the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution were signed in this building. As you enter the property, you have to go through a security check, so make sure you're prepared to empty your pockets and take off your coats. A few minutes after we met up with our tour guide, he explained how the tour was going to go, and then we followed him in. Before we move on, I wanted to let you know on my Patreon page I'll have our full 24 hours in Philly itinerary available as a PDF, as well as all the addresses for each location we visit today. Becoming a Patreon member really helps support my channel and these travel videos more than you know. The link is in the description box if you're interested. I thank you in advance. The first room you enter is the Supreme Court Chamber of Independence Hall. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania heard their cases in this room beginning around 1743. During this time, the Supreme Court gained more influence and power. The courtroom contained a judge's bench, jury boxes, prisoner's dock, and a table of lawyers. Other courts later used this room, and it even served as a museum in the late 1800s. This piece is called the Pennsylvania Coat of Arms. It was placed there in 1785. Next, we were off to the most famous room of them all, the Assembly Room. The Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution were both signed in this very room. Later, the room became a shrine to the founding of the nation, proudly displaying the Liberty Bell and original paintings of the founding fathers. Our guide did a great job of telling us the history and testing our knowledge. Historical fact that I just found out on this tour. Following Abraham Lincoln's assassination, his body laid in here for 2 days. This would have been the exact location where Benjamin Franklin sat each meeting. And this is the most prized possession in the room, the original chair George Washington sat in.
It's crazy. George Washington sat right there in that very chair. It's awesome. So what'd you think of your tour?
It was pretty good.
It was free.
Yeah.
It's always free, but... I never saw this before. Abraham Lincoln stood here when he raised the flag on Independence Hall, February 22nd, 1861. Wow. Pretty sure a national treasure, Nicolas Cage, was running up on the roof. I think up there. Probably not there, but somewhere up there.
Once you leave Independence Hall, make sure to go and tour Congress Hall directly next to it. It's included in your ticket. Built as the Philadelphia County Courthouse, Congress Hall was home to the U.S. Congress from 1790 to 1800, when Philadelphia served as the temporary capital of the United States. Fun fact, Presidents George Washington and John Adams were both inaugurated in this very building.
Look at that, the Battle of Bunker Hill. We were just there, near Boston. You guys will see those videos soon enough. Nicole's gonna sit in the timeout chair.
I don't think I'm allowed to sit in it, but I think this is the timeout chair.
It's over here by itself. I guess we could go upstairs. I mean, there's nothing blocking us off, so we're gonna head up.
The ranger told us if there's things behind a gate, that means there's some original stuff back there. I'm not sure what's original and what's not, but probably at least something is.
It's amazing how old this floor is. What do you think?
Love it. I wonder if this is where you can tie your horse.
Maybe. This is one of my favorite places, like, ever. I love history, I love the American Revolution. It's just amazing for me to know that everything that happened here, I mean, Ben Franklin, Washington, Adams, Hamilton, Jefferson, they were all walking these same streets as I was. It all happened right here. How cool is that?
Before leaving the grounds, we wanted to take it all in at the park directly behind the building. It was a little cold on this day, but it's beautiful most of the time of year.
All around Independence Hall is so many really cool, just old buildings, like that one right there. Next, we're gonna go check out Carpenters Hall, where the first Continental Congress was held in 1774.
On your way to Carpenters Hall, you'll pass this building right here. This is the second bank of the United States. You can actually tour this as well.
That was a whopping 2-minute walk from Independence Hall to Carpenters Hall, where they held the first Continental Congress meeting in 1774. Let's go check out inside.
Carpenters Hall is a treasure in historic Philly. It hosted the first Continental Congress in 1774 and was home to Benjamin Franklin's library company, the American Philosophical Society. This is free to tour, so I recommend stopping in and seeing what they have on display. We were then on our way to Market Street to check out the new Benjamin Franklin Museum.
Wow, on the way to the Benjamin Franklin Museum, and look how old this post office building looks. I love these old lights by there too. It's awesome.
It was so cool to know that Benjamin Franklin used this same original passage to go to and from his house. Once you enter, you're greeted by the ghost outlining of Franklin's former home. This was probably my favorite thing to see here.
I'm standing in Ben Franklin's living room. Nicole made a good point too, that outlining right there, there's probably a fireplace right there. So how many years ago would have been Ben Franklin right here? Getting my hands toasty by the fire. Probably not gonna be able to see this at all, but down there is the original foundation of Ben Franklin's home. We could barely see it ourselves, but it's still there. It is still there. This is really cool to be here and see this. So, all right, it is that time. We're now heading into the Benjamin Franklin Museum. First time ever.
Once inside the museum, you get to explore Franklin's life and character. The museum features artifacts, computer animations, and interactive displays which we really enjoyed. The exhibits are geared toward visitors of all ages, with displays that are educational, challenging, and fun.
And to make that recollection as durable as possible by putting it down in writing.
Just wrapped up touring the Benjamin Franklin Museum. It was all right. I'm glad I was here to see it, but I will say I'm also glad it was only $5. So definitely worth it if you're in this area to go and tour it. But I'm glad it was only $5.
We then walked 1 block down to Arch Street to see the famous Betsy Ross house. This landmark was the home of Betsy Ross, the seamstress who sewed the first American flag in 1776. We did not tour this today because we already have in the past, but it's definitely worth a visit. No visit to Philly is complete until you check out the famous Elfreth Alley. Elfreth Alley was home to the 18th century artisans and tradespeople who were the backbone of colonial Philadelphia. Over 300 years later, the historic 32 houses that line the street remain hot properties, and this cobblestone alley is a designated National Historic Landmark.
It has probably been about 5 years since we've been here. The last time we were here was a Saturday in June, and it was slammed here. Obviously, it's dead of winter, and we have the entire street to ourselves. So I guess I'll say that's a positive about coming in the winter.
Next, we made our way back to Arch Street to search for the gravesite of the one and only Benjamin Franklin. He's buried at Christ Church Burial Ground.
This cemetery, you do have to pay for if you want to go in. It's $5. But we're actually at the last day of February right now, so it's closed. But it's fine because we could see Benjamin Franklin's grave right outside. And here we are. Now, common misconception. A lot of people think Benjamin Franklin is buried in Boston because there's a huge memorial there, but it's actually his parents who are buried there. He is in Philly, resting peacefully right here. Both Benjamin Franklin and his wife Deborah are buried right below us.
And that's his daughter, their daughter and her husband.
Look at that. Learn something new every day, and that's his daughter and her husband.
We then made our way to Market Street to check out the Declaration House. Thomas Jefferson resided at this site while drafting the Declaration of Independence. The house was later demolished and then reconstructed in 1975. I really wanted to tour this today, but unfortunately it's temporarily closed due to deterioration. The last place we had time for today was to visit the famous Liberty Bell. You can go beyond the iconic crack to learn how the State House bell was transformed into an extraordinary symbol. Plan your visit to the Liberty Bell Center to allow time to view the exhibits, see the film, and gaze upon the famous cracked bell. Good news is no tickets are required. However, hours vary seasonally. We've already toured this building a few times in the past, so we didn't do it today, but we did go and check out the bell through the window. You'll see right here. Well, everyone, that's a wrap. Make sure to check out these other cool videos, and I'll see you there.